One sentence summary. Imagine if Bruce Lee went on a spy mission instead of James Bond. Could you beat the villain? Could I beat Han, the guy that was trained by Bruce Lee's master? Yes I could. Bruce Lee even says in the film, like, why don't we just shoot this guy? And Braithwaite, the British intelligence fella, is all like, no, we can't do that. You can though, just smuggle a gun on and shoot him. He's got all these bodyguards who he calls his daughters or whatever, and they are good at throwing things in the air. But if you've got like a shotgun or a machine gun, you shoot Han and you're like, nobody else move. I'm in charge of this island now. But they don't do that, so they should have done. How would you improve this film? This is the second film I've watched in a row that has dragon in the title and features no dragons. I can't blame Enter the Dragon for Dragon Mountain, but it did annoy me. Bruce Lee plays a character called Lee. We never find out if that's his first name or last name. And the film opens with Bruce Lee, who's in like peak physical human form, fighting a guy who, I don't mean to be harsh, is a little bit flabby. It's not exactly an impressive way to open the film. Like, oh man, this absolute specimen of humankind is going to beat up someone's dad. Alright, cool. Also, why are they fighting in Speedos in that scene? Most of the fights in this film feel like they're missing something, and I worked out that is the other person fighting. So the whole film, where every scene he's in, focuses on Bruce Lee. So it even kind of zooms in on Bruce Lee's face. Sometimes you can't even see the person that Bruce Lee is punching or is just knocked to the ground. Why is the camera so close? Bruce Lee does a weird thing in this film where he doesn't look at people. So when his mentor is talking to him, Bruce Lee's like looking over here and the mentor's over here. And then some of the goons that Bruce Lee fights towards the end, he's all like doing punch, punch, other punch, big kick. He's not even turning his head. How does he know they're there? Why has he got daredevil powers? Bruce Lee interrupts a conversation with Braithwaite, the British intelligence guy, to do a couple of minutes of training session with some random kid who never gets mentioned again. That's just rude. Tell the kid to wait 5 minutes. The rickshaw cannot be the most efficient way for someone to travel on a road full of cars. Seems dangerous. And neither can those boats where the captain, I guess, of the little boat is waggling the oar like a fish's tail to paddle them through the water. I don't understand why they built Han's bodyguard. He's the guy who killed Bruce Lee's sister or caused her death, and he can like punch bricks that are on fire or whatever. We see him during the training session or doing a training session on a film when Bruce Lee's getting told about Han. So you're like, oh man, this guy must be with Han all the time. And then he gets killed, you know, halfway through the film, and there's another henchman, Bolo, who does exactly the same role, and he's a bodyguard, Scarface I shall call him. Then there's a whole bit with Han's daughters, he calls them whatever. Those are his bodyguards as well, and they also do nothing in the film. It's like, why, who's doing this? Who wrote this piece of shit? But, you know, I'm not here to judge. There is way too much footage of people travelling on boats, and the flashbacks in this film, just annoying. 3 characters in a row doing nothing, just, you know, on boats travelling towards another boat, it would turn out, have flashbacks. Why did Bruce Lee need a flashback? We've been with him the whole film. We could have seen him go to that graveyard and be like, oh, well, I'm going on a secret mission now. Goodbye, dead sister, or whatever. The old man who's with Bruce Lee in the flashback, maybe it's his dad, I'm not really sure, but he's like, oh, look, let me tell you the truth about what happened to your sister. Then he's telling Bruce Lee stuff he couldn't possibly know because he wasn't there for. Why would we focus on that lady sweeping leaves in the graveyard when she plays no part in the story? I expected Bruce Lee to keep looking at her, and then after he's gone, she like pulls out a secret radio or something, and she's like, oh yes, he's on his way now. Didn't happen. Why would those goons attack Roper on the golf course? Like, hey, you owe our boss money. So, well, I haven't got it now. I'm playing golf. Why would I have 150,000 or whatever it was? They set up a New Zealander fella to be the villain, and, you know, they have him do a kick the cat moment. We're like, oh man, this guy's well bad. You know, he'll be important later in this story. And he's not, so that was stupid. Han's assistant woman, her flares are insane. They're giant, and it's because she's wearing such a weird outfit. It's very noticeable that she's wearing the same clothes every time they're in a scene outdoors, which are set on different days. So it's just like, well, obviously you filmed all this at the same time, and then you've just lied and told me it's different days. This is stupid. The bit where the female guards are supposed to be hitting targets mid-air, but we don't see them hit those targets. We see Han throw an apple in the air, and the woman like, ah. Oh wow, look, it's definitely been hit in the air. Rubbish, who did this? Roper has a catchphrase, wanna bet? And he says that in times when it doesn't even make sense in a conversation, so that's weird. Surely in the 1970s, the bit with the concubines was still not okay. That's not alright, because I'm pretty sure they mentioned like people being sold into sex slavery and stuff in the beginning of the film, so that's sad. Mei Ling did not need to be in the film at all. It's like, oh man, we should be quiet because we don't want people to overhear that we're talking about taking down Han's operation, and then continues to talk at the same level of voice. So, who's the guy with glasses and a Hitler moustache betting on the tournament with Roper and Williams? Because everybody else that we see in the crowd appears to be part of the training school, and that guy doesn't look like he's doing karate all the time. The second bedroom scene clearly should have taken place directly after the first one, where the concubines are introduced. So, like, why did they put a scene the next day between them? Don't know. Bruce Lee goes way over the top when he's beating up one of the guards on his secret little mission. Could have just like judo chopped him, or Vulcan nerve pinch, or hit him once, but he doesn't. He's like, Jesus Christ, what did that guy do? There's very clearly a reverse shot of Bruce Lee jumping out of a tree, rewound to make it look like he's jumping into a tree, so that was terrible. How did Bruce Lee know he was going to need a rope on this little secret expedition, and how long did it take him to tie those knots into the rope so he could use it as a kind of makeshift ladder, so he could go down that air vent or whatever it was? Why doesn't Bruce Lee wear the same uniform as everyone else to the tournament? Roper and Williams, they're wearing it. Bruce Lee, he's just wearing his own clothes, and someone's like, why are you not wearing the tournament gi or whatever it is? And he's just like, and that's the end of the conversation. He just stares at the guy. That's weird. I did not like the first person perspective used during some of the later fights, and I did not like that when Han and Williams have a bit of a fight, those birds that are in that cage, collateral damage. Han has a Blofeld cat in one scene that I'm pretty sure we never see again. So he's just like, Mr. Roper, here's my evil plan. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to guillotine my cat. Alright, it's your cat, you do whatever you want with it, I suppose, but I'm not an expert. Well, I think those people that like cooking opium or heroin probably should be wearing a mask or something. But they weren't, and they seemed fine. And we go through, I don't know, like a museum or something like that, and we see like Chekhov's Wolverine-style claws in a case. And it was just like, I wonder if he's going to use those later in the film. And he does, so that's good. Why do you have to go through the generator room and the lady assassin hangout to get to the heroin production facility? Seems like an odd design for the building. The next day, after it's been said like, oh man, by Han, one of you lads was roaming around last night when you shouldn't have been doing, alright, and you beat up some of my guards. That's very naughty, bad times. So the next day, Bruce Lee goes back to the exact same kind of air vent, and instead of like padlocking it or posting a couple of guards or whatever, someone's just put a snake on top of it. So that's an interesting home security initiative they've taken there. Also, that snake, Bruce Lee beats that snake up, he stuffs it in a bag, he carries the bag around with him, which I feel the snake, if it wanted to, could probably bite through it. He releases it into a room, the guys are like, oh my god, they jump out of a window. And there's a scene where Bruce Lee is calling for help, doing the Morse code or whatever, and the snake is clearly travelling away from Bruce Lee, and he puts his foot on it to like hold it, and it's like supposed to be like, he's protecting himself from the snake. The snake was running away, alright, you're a monster. Why do all the guards come at Bruce Lee one at a time? Oh wait, I know why it is. It's because Han instructs the guards later in the film. There's like 50 of them standing all around to attack like one or two at a time. Stupid plan. What is with Bruce Lee's face when he stamps on people, right? Why is he going like, yeah? He stamps on the guy who like caused his sister's death. Fine, it's very emotional. Then one of the guards, he stamps on them as well. It's like, Christ, what did that guy do? Han seems to think that Roper's refusal to fight Bruce is because Roper's a good guy and he's actually not involved in like heroin dealing and stuff. But actually, I'm pretty sure it's because Roper saw Bruce beat up one of Han's guys yesterday and like stamp him to death. I wouldn't want to fight that guy either. One of the guards is just standing in the background smiling as Bruce Lee beats up his fellow goons. He seemed to be having a lovely time, that extra. And Han has captured like a bunch of low-life goons or whatever, and maybe he's like tested heroin on them or something. And then when those guys are free, it turns out they all know martial arts and maybe they're not lowlifes. Bruce doesn't get challenged in a fight until he can't see his opponent at the end. And I don't get on, like Han, he's trained by the same dude, he's, supposed to be really, really good, he beat the crap out of Williams. And then when he's fighting Bruce Lee, he's just running away scared. So there's no danger there. And yeah, he's got the Wolverine claws, but all he does is like scratch Bruce Lee. He doesn't like stab him in the back. On at least twice he's got the opportunity to do so. And during that fight as well, Bruce Lee gets Han in a headlock and he like kicks him a bit and then pushes him away. If you're that serious about it, you kill him right there. I can have 5 beers. The guard who was swinging his nunchucks around and hit that lion statue, that was pretty funny. I like that. And when the scar-faced bodyguard goon got kicked in the nuts, I felt that and it made me feel a little bit sick. I would give this 4 beers out of 5.